I knew our company was heading for a train wreck the moment I walked into my office and saw a pair of muddy, rhinestone-encrusted designer platform sneakers resting right on top of my mahogany desk. My chair, the ergonomic leather throne I had guarded like a piece of sacred territory for 12 years, was currently occupied by a 25-year-old girl. She had a phone mounted on a ring light, a pink vape pen in her left hand, and was in the middle of recording a TikTok video, lip-syncing to some high-pitched pop song. She looked at me, did not stop her dance, and then paused the recording to say, "Yo, you must be Arthur. My dad Clint said you would be totally chill with me using this space." Then, without even waiting for me to speak, she angled her phone, dragged me into the frame, and snapped a photo of us. She immediately posted it with the caption, "Finally running this place." Clara Montgomery had just arrived, and with that single post, she had no idea she had just pulled the pin on a corporate grenade. My name is Arthur Pendelton. I am 58 years old. I do not raise my voice. I do not throw tantrums, and I certainly do not engage in office drama. I spent 18 years of my life building Apex Logistics from a small regional courier service into a multi-million-dollar supply chain operation. The entire back-end system, the database routing, the automated scheduling algorithms that keep 400 delivery trucks moving across 12 states every single day, is my creation. I wrote the code. I designed the architecture. I know every server IP, every backup script, and every legal line in our corporate agreements. For the past 6 months, our CEO, Clint Montgomery, had been parading around the office, boasting about a 9-figure acquisition deal with Vanguard Logistics Group. Clint is the kind of executive who measures his worth by the size of his bonus check and the luxury of his lease car. He knows absolutely nothing about logistics. He thinks cloud computing is literally about the weather. When Vanguard started showing interest, Clint spent all his time playing golf with their partners and signing preliminary paperwork. He did not bother to read the due diligence files, but I did. I spent weeks reading the boilerplate text. That's when I found Clause 7, buried on page 48 of the merger agreement under the section labeled Reputational Risk and Governance Integrity. It was a standard but severe eject lever inserted by Vanguard's corporate lawyers. The clause stated that any public misrepresentation of operational authority, unauthorized disclosure of corporate assets, or reputational damage caused by an executive or their immediate family members during the active due diligence window would give Vanguard the unilateral right to terminate the acquisition immediately with zero financial liability. And here was Clara Montgomery, the CEO's 25-year-old daughter, sitting at this desk of the Senior Vice President of Systems, posting a public geotagged photo, declaring that she was running the company. I stood there in the doorway, my leather briefcase still in my hand. I did not yell at her to get out. I did not call security. I just looked at the screen of her phone, which she was proudly showing off. The photo was already live. It had the Apex corporate logo in the background, a geotag of our headquarters, and her caption. She was a minor influencer with about 45,000 followers, mostly teenagers and college students who watched her post videos about how to be a boss babe without actually working. "Are you done?" I asked, my voice flat and even. Clara rolled her eyes and took a drag from her pink vape, sending a cloud of strawberry-scented smoke into my face.
"Don't be so uptight, Arthur."
Dad said I could shadow the executive team for the next 2 weeks to build content for my social media channel. He said you guys don't actually do much anyway besides looking at charts. I need this corner office because the lighting is perfect for my morning vlog. You can just use the conference room down the hall, right? I did not answer. I did not need to. I turned on my heel and walked straight to the copying room at the end of the hall. The room was empty, smelling of ozone and warm paper. I opened my digital drive, pulled up the signed copy of the Vanguard merger agreement, and scrolled down to page 48. I printed out Clause 7. Then I pulled out my phone, took a screenshot of Clara's public Instagram post, and printed that out too. I grabbed a neon pink highlighter from the supply cabinet and drew a thick, bright line over the words. Any misrepresentation of executive control or unauthorized access to corporate facilities by associated parties. I placed the highlighted page and the screenshot into a yellow inner office envelope. I wrote Legal Department on the front. I sealed it. Then I sat down at a computer terminal, drafted a brief email, and attached the PDF copies of the documents. The subject line was simple: Clause 7, reputational breach and unauthorized access. I did not send it to the CEO. I sent it directly to our general counsel, Audrey DuPont, and BCC'd every member of the board of directors. After hitting send, I walked back to my office. Clara was now standing in front of my window, doing a dance routine for her camera. She did not even look at me. I reached past her, opened my desk drawer, and picked up a single cardboard box. I did not pack everything. I just took my framed photo of my golden retriever, my favorite coffee mug that said I survived another meeting, and a high-security encrypted USB drive containing the version history and license keys for our proprietary middleware database. I left my security badge face up on the desk. "Are you leaving?" Clara asked, looking up from her phone for a split second. "Yes," I said. "I am taking some personal time." "Whatever," she murmured, turning back to her screen. "Tell my dad to order the oat milk for the break room. The regular milk here is disgusting." I walked out of the building. The lobby was quiet. The receptionist waved at me as I passed. "Have a good afternoon, Arthur," she said. "You too, Sarah," I replied. When I stepped into the parking lot, the midday sun was hot. I could hear the distant rumble of the forklifts in the loading bay. For 18 years, I had been the heartbeat of this company. Every time a system crashed, I was the one who fixed it at 3 a.m. Every time Clint Montgomery wanted to show off a new feature to investors, I was the one who spent 80 hours a week coding it. They thought I was just a quiet fixture, like the office copier or the water cooler. They forgot that fixtures can be uninstalled. I got into my sedan, started the engine, and plugged my phone into the dashboard. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw the first notification ping on my screen. It was an email from Audrey DuPont in legal. The subject line was marked with a red exclamation point. The chess match had begun. I drove straight to the storage unit I rented on the edge of the city. It was a dusty, climate-controlled room filled with metal filing cabinets containing 20 years of consulting paperwork and technical manuals. No one at Apex Logistics knew this place existed, because no one at Apex ever cared about the history of the systems they used. To Clint Montgomery and the board, technology was magic that just happened when you clicked a mouse. They never wondered who owned the magic. I unlocked the double padlocks on Unit 304, pulled open the heavy steel door, and turned on the overhead fluorescent bulb. The light flickered and buzzed as I walked to the third filing cabinet on the left. I opened the bottom drawer and pulled out a thick black binder. Written on the spine in bold black Sharpie was, "In case of emergency." Inside this binder lay my real leverage. AP Tech Partners LLC was a legal entity I had registered quietly 2 years ago, right around the time Clint Montgomery started talking about a future acquisition. I had seen too many corporate buyouts where the senior engineering team was discarded the second the deal closed, replaced by cheaper offshore contractors. So, I protected myself. Every core system I had built or upgraded for Apex Logistics in the last 10 years did not actually belong to Apex. It was built using middleware libraries, routing algorithms, and proprietary scheduling code that I had developed independently. My LLC owned the intellectual property, and Apex only held a license to use it. In the rush to prep for the acquisition, Clint had signed dozens of vendor agreements without looking at the details. He had signed off on the license terms, which clearly stated that AP Tech Partners LLC retained sole ownership of the middleware, and that the license could be revoked by the LLC with 24 hours notice in the event of material corporate restructuring. Vanguard was buying a car, but I owned the engine. If Vanguard pulled out of the deal because of Clara's stunt, Apex would be left stranded, and if they tried to run the systems without my license, they would be facing federal copyright infringement. Meanwhile, back at the Apex headquarters, the legal department was experiencing a collective cardiac arrest. At 9:45 a.m., my email hit the shared inbox of the compliance team. Audrey DuPont, the general counsel, was in the middle of a meeting about vendor NDAs when her junior attorney, a young woman named Megan, stood up, looked at her laptop screen, and went pale. "Audrey, we have a major problem," Megan said, her voice shaking. Audrey, a sharp, 50-year-old corporate lawyer who had spent 15 years defending Apex from minor lawsuits, frowned. "What is it, Megan? Is one of the delivery trucks involved in an accident?" No, Megan replied, turning her laptop screen around. It is Clint's daughter, Clara. Arthur Pendelton just forwarded an email to us. You need to see this. Audrey walked over, put on her reading glasses, and read the email. Attached was the PDF copy of page 48 of the merger agreement, with Clause 7 highlighted in bright pink. Next to it was the screenshot of Clara's Instagram post, showing her feet up on Arthur's desk, her pink vape pen, and the caption, "Finally running this place." Audrey stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds. The room was completely silent. Is this post live? Audrey asked, her voice dropping an octave. Yes, Megan said. It was posted 30 minutes ago. The geotag shows our headquarters building. The timestamp confirms it was made from inside the office. Get Harold Vance and Sylvia Vance on the phone immediately, Audrey ordered, and tell security to check the IP address of that post. I want to know if she was connected to our internal corporate network when she uploaded it. Within 15 minutes, security confirmed the worst. Clara had not only uploaded the photo from the office, but she had also connected to the high-security executive Wi-Fi network using Clint's personal administrative login credentials. The IP address logged by Instagram matched our primary router. This was not just a silly social media post. It was a documented timestamped breach of our security protocols and a public misrepresentation of executive control during the most sensitive phase of an active 9-figure acquisition. Clause 7 was very clear. Any public misrepresentation of authority or unauthorized access by immediate family members of an executive constituted a material breach. Vanguard now had the legal right to walk away from the merger, keep their due diligence data, and pay $0 in termination fees. By 10:15 a.m., the panic had spread to the executive assistant pool. They noticed that the shared calendar for the integration team, which usually had 20 meetings scheduled for the day, was suddenly empty. One by one, the calendar invites from Vanguard's team were disappearing, replaced by gray boxes that said, "Cancelled." Audrey sat at her desk, her hands rubbing her temples. She knew Clint. She knew he would try to laugh this off, to call it a harmless joke by a young girl. But Vanguard's lawyers were notorious sharks. They had been looking for a reason to renegotiate the purchase price, and Clara had just handed them a golden ticket. Audrey opened a new email draft, addressed it directly to Clint Montgomery, and marked it high priority with read receipts. Clint, we have an urgent exposure under Clause 7 of the Vanguard merger agreement, she wrote. Clara has posted a public statement claiming operational control of the company from Arthur Pendelton's office. Vanguard is already canceling integration meetings. We need to address this immediately. She clicked send at 10:23 a.m. Clint marked the email read at 10:27 a.m., but no reply came. In the silence that followed, Audrey knew that the storm was coming, and there was absolutely nothing she could do to stop it. By 11:15 a.m., the silence from Vanguard Logistics Group was deafening. It was like someone had suddenly pulled the plug on the entire 9-figure acquisition. The shared Slack workspace between Apex and Vanguard, which had been buzzing for 3 weeks with green emojis, welcome messages, and collaborative spreadsheets, fell completely silent. No one was typing, no one was online. The Vanguard team members had all changed their statuses to offline. Then, at 11:32 a.m., the hammer dropped. A formal email arrived in Clint Montgomery's inbox, copied to the entire board of directors and the legal department. It came from Vanguard's lead acquisition counsel, a senior partner at a white shoe law firm in New York, who was notorious for dismantling transactions. The subject line read, "Urgent clarification requested." Social media publication. We have become aware of a public social media post, the email stated, referencing immediate operational control of Apex Logistics by an individual named Clara Montgomery, who is not listed anywhere on the transition organization chart. Please provide written clarification by 2 p.m. today regarding the following points. First, the exact title and corporate role of Clara Montgomery. Second, her level of access to secure computer terminals. Third, whether her public statement of running this place represents an unannounced shift in corporate governance. Vanguard is halting all integration activities pending our review of your response. Clint did not respond for 50 minutes. He sat in his office, staring at the email, his face turning a deep, angry shade of red. He was a man who believed that any problem could be solved by a firm handshake, a golf outing, or a loud, confident speech. He genuinely believed that the rules did not apply to him or his family. When he finally replied, his email was a masterclass in executive denial. "The individual in question is my daughter, Clara Montgomery," Clint wrote. "She does not hold any formal role or authority within Apex Logistics." Her post was an unfortunate, light-hearted attempt at humor and does not reflect our operational reality or governance structure. We have addressed the matter internally, and the post has been removed. We look forward to resuming our integration discussions tomorrow morning. He thought that would end it. He was wrong. You see, in the digital age, nothing is ever truly deleted. Before Clint even sent his reply, a screenshot of Clara's TikTok dance and Instagram post had been captured by an employee in our warehouse. That employee had forwarded it to a friend, who forwarded it to a logistics blog coordinator. By 12:30 p.m., the image was circulating on LinkedIn under the hashtag #NepoBabyCEO and corporate due diligence. It was trending. Investors and industry analysts were already commenting, laughing at the sheer incompetence of a CEO who let his influencer daughter run around a secure server facility during a merger negotiation. Clint, completely unaware of the growing public relations disaster, finally called Clara into his glass-walled corner office. I was sitting at a local diner down the street, drinking a cup of black coffee and monitoring my mirrored network credentials on my tablet. I could see the active user log on the Apex network. Clint's admin account was online, but the location ping was jumping all over the place. "Dem the post, Clara!" Clint hissed, slamming his hand on his glass desk. Clara, who was sitting on his plush sofa with her legs crossed, looked up from her phone and frowned. "Why? It got over 900 likes in 2 hours. That is literally my best performing content this week. My engagement is up by 14%. "I don't care about your engagement," Clint shouted, his voice cracking with a mix of anger and rare panic. Vanguard just halted the entire deal because of it. "Do you know how much money is on the line? $120 million. Clara blinked, looking genuinely confused. "Well, they sound super sensitive. It was just a joke. Besides, Arthur was being really weird about his desk anyway." Clint snatched the phone from her hand and manually deleted the post himself. But the damage was done. At 2:06 p.m., Vanguard's legal team sent a second, even colder response. "We have received your explanation," the email read. "However, due to the documented security breach involving unauthorized network access via executive credentials and the public reputational harm caused during the transition period, Vanguard is formally invoking the review period under Clause 7. All integration activities remain suspended indefinitely. Our risk management committee will contact you when a decision has been reached." The office was now in a state of absolute chaos. Department heads were wandering the hallways, whispering to each other. The integration director was spotted in the break room, staring blankly at the wall, murmuring about his stock options going up in smoke. Everyone knew the deal was dying, and they also knew the one person who could have navigated this crisis. The person who understood the entire transition stack was currently sitting in a diner eating a turkey sandwich. Clint called an emergency meeting of the executive team at 3 p.m. He stood at the head of the conference table, sweat glistening on his forehead, but he still tried to wear his confident CEO grin. "Let us not overreact," Clint said, waving his hands in a dismissive gesture. "This is just optics. It is a minor PR hiccup, not a structural failure. Vanguard is just using this to squeeze us on the purchase price. We still have leverage. Our systems are the best in the region, and they need our logistics platform to expand their East Coast network. We hold the cards here." Nobody said a word. The vice president of finance just looked down at his legal notepad, and the head of operations stared at his shoes. They knew the truth, even if Clint was too blind to see it. Leverage only works if you own the foundation. And Clint had no idea that the foundation had already walked out the door with my security badge. The emergency board meeting was called for 4 p.m. sharp. The virtual conference room was filled with 7 board members, their faces grim, their voices hushed. The oldest and most influential director, 72-year-old Harold Vance, sat at his desk in Florida, squinting at the screen with absolute fury in his eyes. Clint Montgomery was also on the call, still wearing his expensive suit, but his tie was slightly loosened and sweat was dripping down his collar. "Let us begin," Clint said, trying to project authority. "We are not beginning anything, Clint," Harold Vance cut in, his voice like gravel. "We are here to clean up the mess you made. Why was your daughter Clara in a secure server room? Who gave her the SVP of Systems desk? And why did she have your login credentials?" Clint stammered. "It was just a shadowing exercise. She did not touch the databases. She just took a photo. She posted that photo to 45,000 people, showing she was running the place." Sylvia Vance, another board member, snapped. "Vanguard's board saw it. The press saw it. The logistics market is laughing at us. But that is not even the worst part. Audrey, tell them what you found." Audrey DuPont, the general counsel, unmuted her microphone. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were sharp. "We ran a full forensic audit on our M&A compliance files over the last 2 hours," Audrey said. "We were trying to map the system architecture and license agreements to answer Vanguard's questions. That is when we found a major anomaly. A document was uploaded to the merger portal 3 days ago. It was a retroactive intellectual property waiver, claiming that AP Tech Partners LLC had waived all rights to the middleware and transferred ownership to Apex Logistics for a nominal fee of $1. Audrey paused, letting the information sink in. Clint shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "What is wrong with that?" Harold asked. "That sounds like what we wanted." "What is wrong," Audrey continued, "is that the document is a complete forgery. We analyzed the digital signature. It claims to be signed by Arthur Pendelton, but the signature metadata shows it was signed from Clint's personal administrative account, and the IP address trace shows it was uploaded from Clara's iPad. Arthur was in Chicago on a client visit that day. He could not have signed it. Clara forged Arthur's signature to clear the due diligence roadblock." A heavy, suffocating silence fell over the call. "Clint, did you authorize this?" Harold asked, his voice dangerously low. Clint stammered, his face turning pale. "Clara was helping me clean up some files. I told her we needed to get the AP Tech Partners appendix cleared. I didn't know she would actually forge his signature. She just wanted to help her dad. This is a violation of California Penal Code Section 470, Audrey said flatly. "It is forgery. Because it is a forged instrument, the waiver is void ab initio, which means void from the very beginning. The middleware is still 100% owned by Arthur's LLC, AP Tech Partners. And by uploading a forged document to the M&A portal, you have committed security fraud and a massive breach of your fiduciary duty to our shareholders." "Jesus Christ," Sylvia whispered. "If Vanguard finds out about the forgery, and they will, we aren't just looking at a canceled deal," Harold Vance barked. "We are looking at federal criminal charges and shareholder lawsuits." "Clint, you are done." "I want to propose a motion," Sylvia said. "Based on gross negligence, breach of fiduciary duty, and potential criminal exposure, we place Clint Montgomery on immediate administrative leave. We disable his access keys, security badges, and corporate accounts effective immediately. We also ban Clara Montgomery from all company premises." A vote was called. 6 board members raised their hands. "Clint, did not the motion is approved," Harold Vance said. "Clint, HR is waiting outside your office with a box. Leave your keys on the desk and walk out. Do not touch your laptop." Clint looked like he was about to faint. He slowly closed his laptop screen, and his video feed went black by 4:15 p.m. Clint Montgomery, the man who had run Apex Logistics like his personal kingdom, was escorted out of the building by a young security guard. A single cardboard box containing his desk decorations sat on the sidewalk beside him. But the board's problems were far from solved. Harold Vance turned to Audrey. "Where is Arthur Pendelton? We need him to sign a real agreement immediately. We will pay him whatever he wants." Audrey sighed. "Arthur left the building at 10 a. He left his badge on his desk. He is not answering his phone, but he did reply to my email 5 minutes ago." "What did he say?" Sylvia asked. Audrey read the reply from her screen. "My LLC license terms required 24 hours notice for revocation. In the event of restructuring," Arthur had written. "Since Clint is no longer running the company, I am officially giving notice. The middleware license will terminate tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Unless a new agreement is signed, the database routing systems will go offline. Good luck with the merger." Harold Vance leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. "We didn't just step on a landmine," Harold muttered. We handed the detonator to the only man who knows how to disarm it. Audrey write a formal response, offer him a meeting, concede everything. The virtual meeting room opened at 9 a.m. The next morning, exactly 60 minutes before my licensing key was scheduled to shut down the server network. On one side of the split screen sat the remaining members of the Apex Board of Directors, looking like they had spent the entire night in a bunker. Harold Vance looked 10 years older. Next to them was a new face, Charles Finch, the lead acquisition representative from Vanguard Logistics Group. And on the other side was me, sitting on my back porch in a comfortable fleece jacket, holding my favorite coffee mug. Charles Finch broke the silence. Mr. Pendelton. Thank you for joining us, he said, his tone highly professional. I will be direct. Vanguard is aware of the structural changes at Apex. We are also aware that the proprietary middleware supporting the entire logistics stack is owned by your LLC, AP Tech Partners. Frankly, we don't care about Clint Montgomery's family drama. We care about the technology. We want to know if you are willing to license the middleware to Vanguard directly, bypassing the corporate structure of Apex. I took a slow sip of my tea. Yes, I am willing, I said, my voice calm. But the previous terms signed by Clint are no longer on the table. Finch leaned forward, squinting at his camera. What are your new terms, Arthur? First, the licensing fee for the middleware is now $450,000 per year, up from the original $150,000. That is a 3-year commitment, paid up front. Second, I want a permanent seat on the board of directors with full voting rights. I built the infrastructure of this company, and I will no longer allow empty suits to make decisions that impact the systems I design. Harold Vance's face turned purple. That is extortion, he barked. You can't just triple the rate and demand a board seat. Then don't sign, I replied. You have 54 minutes before the license key expires. At 10 a.m., the database routing goes dark. Your trucks will stop moving, your warehouses will go offline. And when Vanguard formally walks away at noon, you will be holding a hollow shell of a company with $40 million in debt and no operating software. Finch did not hesitate. He turned his gaze to Harold on the split screen. Vanguard is prepared to move forward with the acquisition under these new terms, Finch said, but only if Arthur is on the board to guarantee system stability. If you don't approve his terms, Vanguard walks. Now, Harold Vance looked at Sylvia. He looked at Audrey DuPont. He looked at the countdown timer on his laptop screen. It was 9:12 a.m. I make a motion to approve the terms of Apex Tech Partners LLC. Harold muttered, his voice barely a whisper. I second the motion. Sylvia Vance said, her head bowed in defeat. The vote was unanimous. The board approved. Audrey DuPont immediately emailed me the signed contract addendum, which had been pre-drafted by her team. I opened the PDF, verified the digital signatures, and uploaded my own verified signature. At 9:25 a.m., I pushed a button on my laptop console, extending the database license keys for another 5 years. Thank you, gentlemen, I said, and closed the Zoom window. I did not smile. I did not pump my fist in the air. I just went back to enjoying my morning tea. By the end of the week, Clint Montgomery's termination was officially finalized. The public press release was filled with the usual corporate fluff, stating that Clint was retiring to spend more time with his family and that the board thanked him for his years of service. But inside the office, the transition was brutal. Clint's corporate email was deleted. His name was scrubbed from the company directories. A crew came in over the weekend to pack up his remaining personal items. The framed portrait of Clint that had hung in the main lobby was taken down. In its place, the facilities team hung a generic framed photo of an automated logistics warehouse. Clara Montgomery was banned from the building. Her TikTok channel went silent for a week, and when she finally posted again, it was a video of her crying, complaining about toxic work environments and how older generations didn't understand the creator economy. Nobody cared. Her 15 minutes of corporate fame had evaporated. I did not return to my old office. I did not need a desk or a corner window. I was no longer an employee of Apex Logistics. I was a board director and the sole owner of the technology that kept the company alive. Vanguard completed the acquisition 3 weeks later at the original valuation, but the structure was entirely different. I was now one of the largest individual stakeholders in the new joint venture. Across the industry, The story of Clara's selfie became a legendary cautionary tale. It was discussed in business schools and law seminars as a classic example of why corporate due diligence and security protocols matter. By the time dusk fell on Friday, I was back on my porch. A summer storm was rolling in from the west, the dark clouds lit by occasional flashes of silent lightning. The wind rustled the leaves of the oak trees in my yard, carrying the clean, sharp scent of rain. My laptop sat on the table beside me, its screen dark. For 18 years, I had been the quiet engine keeping a noisy machine running. I had tolerated the arrogance, the ignorance, and the nepotism, knowing that eventually, the laws of gravity would catch up with them. They thought they were playing checkers, moving pieces around the board for quick points. They forgot that I designed the board. My phone buzzed with a new email notification. It was a consulting request from a major shipping conglomerate in Seattle asking for my availability next month. Then another email arrived from a venture capital firm in Chicago. I closed the laptop, took a long sip of my jasmine tea, and watched the first heavy drops of rain begin to fall. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit them.